Welcome to this week's Monday Minutes. My name is Kelly.
And my name is Jessie, and this week we are going to show you week 2 of circulation and fine rules. Today we're going to talk about two system preferences that tie in if you are a multi-branch system, and we're going to explain what those will do for your libraries, and then we'll jump in and we will show you how to add secondary circ rules for those branches.
Yeah, so last week we talked about just a single branch, and circ control is not as important really because it's one branch. But if you are a multi-branch system, circ control is going to play a part in which circulation matrix Koha is going to follow. So we really need to make sure we know which one Koha will follow before it heads over to the standard if it does do that.
So let's talk about those three options, Kelly. So right now we have ours set to the library the patron is from. So it is going to look at the library or the branch location that individual is from, and it's going to use those circ rules to determine how that patron will check out.
Yep, absolutely. Then there's another option, the library the item is from. So it's following where that item is from, and then we have a secondary system preference that comes into play for that because an item could have a home branch and a holding branch.
So this is where it gets a little more difficult. So this is where we're going to bring that second system preference into play, and that one is home or holding. So if you decide to set your circ control to the library the item is from, it's going to look at this system. So in home or holding branch, it's going to ask, use the checkout and fine rules of the item's holding branch or home branch. So what that means, the 952 subfield A is your home branch, where that item lives, where its permanent location is. Then you have the 952 subfield B, which is the item's holding branch. It may have got returned there if your items float, or maybe it was transferred there. The holding is where it's at physically now. So those are the two options that you have to determine which circulation and fine rule will be used.
And then finally, the third option in circ control is where you're logged in at. So as a staff member, what library am I logged in at? And then that circulation, that checkout I perform is going to follow the rules that I'm logged in at. So if I'm logged in at the East, Koha is going to use the East branch rules.
All right, perfect. So now that we have those system preferences under control, let's go in and actually add some circ rules to a secondary location.
Absolutely. So we're in the admin under circulation and fine rules where we were last week. So last week we did standard rules because again, we're just doing one set. If we were a multi-branch, now we have to choose what branch we want to set rules for. So if we wanted to set rules for what the patrons of the East branch follow, because that's what our circ control is set at, we're going to set the rules here, and Koha is going to follow these rules first.
All right, Kelly, so why don't we walk through a specialty one that we set up in here to kind of just talk about some of those differences for a secondary branch.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's do like maybe an interlibrary loan East branch.
Perfect.
And I'll leave that as an all item type. So if we do loan to that patron category, interlibrary loan, and we lend anything out, what are those rules? Current checkouts, we talked about this last week, depending on what our rules are. One of the ones we didn't talk about a lot was this hard due date, and probably this doesn't come into play too much with an interlibrary loan, but it's important for academics to know that this does exist. Jessie, you want to talk about this?
Now for the hard due date, this will allow us to pick three options. This is a perfect example if you're in a school or a academic university college and you want it to end at the end of the semester or the end of the school year. The most easy is exactly on. That says everything is due exactly on that hard due date, the end of the semester, May 12th, the end of your school year, June 17th. And then you have two other options. You have a before and after. What those options will do is take into consideration your loan period. So if it's before the loan period date or after the loan period date, it will tie back to that hard due date. So this gives you some flexibility if you want the user to still tie in those loan periods, or if you want it exactly due on that date.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for academics to determine who can have something for an entire semester, such as faculty or students, where they could renew it, but at some point it's going to have this end of the semester date. So that's really helpful. Okay, well, that covers kind of like setting up a circulation rule for a specific branch in a multi-branch system. You're going to look at two system preferences, and you're going to set up those rules in this particular branch if you want that to be followed.
And remember, depending on what you choose, these rules will be taken into consideration first. So when you perform that circulation for your patron, it will look at your branch specific rules first. If it finds a rule there that matches, it'll use that rule. If it doesn't find that rule, then it will go look at those standard rules and see if something matches there. So keep those in mind when you're setting your circ rules up for a multi-branch system.
Yeah, so if you don't want them to head over to the standard rule, you should put an all rule, so you're capturing every scenario for your specific branch. And we don't actually have one in here, Jessie, so I should throw one in there really quick. So that says these are all the rules for my East branch, and it should not divert to another branches such as the standard at all.
Perfect. So you have lots of options when you're setting up your circ and find rules. There's a lot of moving pieces. As always, if you have a question, submit a ticket and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And have a great week.
Have a great week. See you next week.
See you next week.